Hello, good day to one and all. This is Miss A. Krishna Sundar, Assistant Professor, Department of English, KAHM Unity Women's College, Mancheri. Today we are going to discuss the chapter titled as Amnesty, written by Nadim Godimer, and we had already done a video lecture with the first part with a detailed introduction and a detailed explanation for the paragraphs 1 to 6. So in the second part, we start with para 7 till paragraph 16. So before moving on to para 7, I'm giving you a brief summing up of paragraphs 1 to 6. So the story is narrated by a young African woman, and her imprisoned husband is getting back home after 6 years. So the story goes like a flashback story by narrating the incidents which happened before. So she continues with her memories in para 7 too. So let's start with para 7. Now she says 2 years have passed by now and the families saved some money to go to Cape Town to visit him. So she has already mentioned how her fiancé got imprisoned. Initially, he had gone to the town as a construction worker, and then he joined trade unions, and slowly he was becoming a transformed man. He was slowly becoming a political man. So finally, after the trial, he was imprisoned, and he was imprisoned at a prison in Cape Town, situated at Cape Town. So now, after 2 years, they haven't seen this man for 2 years, and finally, they save money to go to Cape Town to visit him. They went by the train and then they had to cross through the ferry. All people who used the ferry were going to Cape Town to see someone in the island. So, this prison was situated at Cape Town, an island, and people had to travel through ferry in order to reach this place. So the entire family now decides to go to Cape Town to visit this man. Now, in the next paragraph, she gives an elaborate description of the sea. I'm sure if you have gone through the other textbook, Writing for Academic and Professional Success, you might have gone through the term description, how you describe something. So here she is giving an elaborate description of the sea. She talks about the color, she talks about the different nuances, etc. Green and blue in color, climbing and falling. A terrible wind was slapping this way. So if you remember, the different senses are used to describe something. So here the narrator uses the same strategy. She uses the color green and blue to give a visual appeal. A terrible wind was slapping this way, which is actually giving you a sense of touch. Now, moving on to paragraph 9, they carried sweets and biscuits and a warm coat for him. She was also dressed well along with the entire family. So they were with great excitement and enthusiasm because they are going to meet this man after 2 long years. When the ferry was ready to take us, we stood all pressed together and quiet like the cattle waiting to be let through a gate. Now, this is a textual line and hence in italics. Now, this really showcases the condition of the black people during the white supremacy period. So, like the cattle waiting to be let through a gate, so they were just treated as animals everywhere. Now, moving on to para 10 and 11, the policeman now asks for the permit, and they did not have one. So, in order to get into the ferry and in order to reach the island and in order to see someone who is in jail, the family needs a permit. They have to take a permit first in order to visit this prison. And unfortunately, they did not have one. Therefore, they were turned away. They watched the ferry move along, bumping on sides, and stood there with disappointment. So the entire excitement got shattered into pieces because now they are not having the permit, and because of this reason, they were not allowed to get into the ferry. So that attempt was completely futile, which means they took a lot of effort, they spent a lot of time, they spent a lot of money, but after all these efforts, they were disappointed because they were not allowed to get into the island because they did not have a permit. Moving on to para 12, the only best thing was some other people took the sweets and biscuits for him. So they actually carried a lot of things for this man, but they could not go. But these things were taken by other people and they handed over these things to him. He wrote and said, remember, they used to write letters. He wrote and said he got them. But he was angry in his words and criticized her for being ignorant about the permit. So look at the ideology of this man. He becomes angry because this woman was ignorant about the permit. Now he says, this is again a textual line, our ignorance is the way we are kept down. This ignorance must go. Which means you have to be aware of the things around you because that is a necessity for surviving in one's society. Now, they had to face this huge disappointment just because they were ignorant of the permit. So he is really angry with this lady because he says that she should have known about that. She should have inquired. She should have understood. So knowledge and exposure, this can be considered as a way of building yourself. Now this is a necessity to survive in today's world. So moving on to para 13, they never tried to visit the island again because visiting again would mean more money. Because it was with a lot of effort that they gathered some money and visited, but it was a futile attempt. Meanwhile, his father died and she had to support his mother. Money was always an issue for them. But he kept writing to her, giving her hope about a new future, which means they continued their relationship through letters. So just imagine, they never got married, but still they had a very strong bond between them. The word power was blackened in those letters, which means the prison officer would read them and cut them off, which they felt as unnecessary. So, those letters which he wrote, some of the words were blackened, and one such word was power. So, there are certain words which the hierarchy or those whom you can call as a dominating group really did not like, and those were the words like freedom, power, etc. So they kept writing letters to each other. Moving on to para 14, now she comes to reality and thinks how easily 5 long years have disappeared because now he is returning from jail. So they haven't met each other during this long period. She was telling her little daughter that her daddy is coming. So this is a surprising news for the daughter. The little girl was also thrilled when she told her friends in school that her dad is coming. However, this daddy was a total stranger for this daughter. Because the girl has never seen this man, so he remained as a stranger and she knew him only through a photograph. Now, moving on to para 15, the whole family was thrilled and was awaiting for his presence. So now, slowly from the past, the woman is bringing the narration to the present. Nonetheless, she thinks how things have changed and how they did not have a home of their own. So now she realizes the fact that they never got a chance to build their home, to construct a home of their own. Because when this man is coming back from jail, they don't have a separate home to stay with their daughter. They have to stay either with her family or with his mother, who is now staying with an uncle. So she realizes the fact that they are not really having anything, and this is all because of the oppression which was done to the African people. Moving on to para 16, now they heard the news about his release in radio. So this was how she got the news. She could also spot a picture of released prisoners traveling in a ferry in a newspaper at Indian store. So she actually found a photograph in the newspaper, and it was about a group of people traveling in a ferry, and these people were those who were actually coming back home from imprisonment. She could not spot him from the picture, but finally he arrives on a Saturday. So suddenly he comes. He was brought in a combi car by his friends. Now, combi car, you can see in the picture, it is a car which is a hatchback which has got a sloping kind of structure at the back. You call that a combi car. So he was brought in a combi car by his friends. They all hugged each other, and it was a pleasant moment because it was a reunion of the family once again. His mother was there, her parents, and the daughter too. While everyone gave him a warm welcome, the child was confused, and the child said, "That is not him." So it was a pleasant moment, and they held the child towards him because he is actually saying the child now. He has seen her just once from the court when she was a very small baby. So it's a happy moment for the family. So now the narration is actually coming to the present situation when the man has returned home from imprisonment. So with this, we come to the end of the second part. So thank you very much. Thank you very much for your patient listening. Now please check the next video for part 3. If you have any queries or if you need any assistance, please do not hesitate to connect with me in my email ID. So thank you very much. Thank you for your patient listening. Thank you.